What happened with you realising maybe something wasn't quite right?
Right, PG version is I found it by accident. That is a way to kill a party, let me tell you, find an alarm. So I could have been diagnosed there and then. And I'm very, very lucky the cancer hadn't spread. They've said they think they can get rid of it. They're throwing the book at you. They've offered to freeze your eggs. It means they think you're going to have a life after this. It's 10 years on. I've still got a little blazing squad, 9 eggs on ice, waiting to be fertilised. We've had messages from people who have been given their treatment plan from the hospital, and on it says, listen to you in the big C.
How does it feel being the only one left? Today's guest is the incredible Lauren Mahon. She founded Girl vs. Cancer. She was a key part of the amazing podcast You, Me and the Big C. And today we talk all about cancer, losing very good friends to it, and what life looks like after it. It's an incredible listen. We really hope you enjoy it. Hello, Lauren. I'm Ray. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I mean, I do feel like I am like not the main energy actually now. I think it's Ray.
Yeah, and for those who are just listening, we have got Raymond, the miniature Schnauzer dog with us, who is spectacular.
Yeah, he's laying across my lap and it's like paint me one of your French girls energy. Yeah. It's a bit insane, but yeah.
He's a good boy. He is. He's the star of the show. Many people know you from being one of the co-hosts of You, Me and the Big C, which really changed the conversation on cancer. And you previously hosted this with Rachel Bland and Dame Deborah James.
Yes, we have to remember the Dame.
We do.
She'll come back and haunt us.
AKA Bow Babe. And we're going to get into more detail about that later. You've done many brilliant things and you continue to do them. But I want to start with you and what life was like before cancer even got involved with your life, okay? So Can I take you back like 11 years ago?
I mean, living in central London, just moved in with friends in East London, my first like house share. Just really enjoying the fruits that London bears. Do you know what I mean? Like partying, eating out, meeting new people all the time, festivals, and then work life was very much like first managerial role in social media. I'd always done marketing. I love marketing and branding. Yeah. And
so you're working in social media and you're 30, early 30s at this point.
Yeah, 30s. Just turned 30, you know. Obviously you feel like this is it. This is when I'm going to establish myself and like this is where I'm going to find out what I really want to do and all these possibilities, like make bank and go on holidays and meet the love of my life. And that was kind of where I was at. I was a little bit lost, but not in a bad way. I think most people who are in their early 30s, like, what am I doing in some capacity?
Totally. I mean, aren't we always a bit lost
anyway?
Exactly.
It's so true.
And so you're living with a couple of girlfriends.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're born and bred in London, right? But you are now standing on your own 2 feet. You've got a salary, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The world was my oyster. It felt that way.
Yeah.
It felt like my life was starting. I've always felt like I'm a late bloomer. And I felt like where I didn't go off to university, I went to university in London to end up staying with my family to like make it more affordable. I felt like I was adulting quite late.
Yep.
So I felt like I was finally getting my stride, figuring things out and like building a life for myself.
Yeah. And what did life look like in terms of what were you, other than having a good time with your girlfriends, doing a bit of partying, working, what were your other priorities? And also actually what were you worried about at that time or nothing?
Probably boys, mate, to be honest, which is so embarrassing to say. She likes men in this day and age. But I think it would have been like just money, making sure I'm like proving myself at work.
Yep.
And
so you were quite career driven.
I think I was very much, I mean, I now know I've got ADHD. So basically when I worked like in corporate jobs, I loved the thrill of the chase, like getting the job, establishing myself. Then 6 months in, I'd be like, oh, shiny new thing. Like I'm bored. But so I was very much in that state of, oh, this is exciting and new in my new job. So like wanted to do well, but also excited about like what doors were going to open. I wasn't very rigid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think my main worries were like, make sure I had enough money to like, make sure my rent was covered, that I could do fun things with friends.
Yeah.
Am I getting a text back from that guy?
Yeah.
And am I making a good impression at work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So relatively normal in inverted commas, like early 30 things going on.
Yeah.
Then what happened with you realizing maybe something wasn't quite right?
I've had this health anxiety my whole life.
Have you?
So I've had a lot of loss in my life, even outside of the cancer
I'm
stuff.
sorry.
So I was 16, I lost 2 people in very quick succession, both young, both very different circumstances, but like just not the norm. And so my idea of death and life was very warped and like kind of got a very short, sharp shock very quickly. So, in the age of like 16, I was kind of convinced I was going to get sick and die young.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So it was like instilled from like the age of 16. Were
I
you
was
worried?
terrified. Yeah, I think I was just very hyper aware of my own mortality from a quite a young age because I'd been close to it firsthand.
Were you talking about death a lot after that, or was it more internal stress?
I had a lot of like mental health stuff, like anxiety, depression, which I now think was like undiagnosed ADHD and PTSD. But there was always that thing in the back of my head. I was always worried something was about to happen, like my body was going to give out on me. I never thought it would be cancer, weirdly. I thought like I'm going to have a heart attack or something. That's the anxiety. I found a lump by accident, and there's no part of my brain that thought it was cancer. I genuinely thought it was a cyst, that it would go away. I've got really small boobs. These are my natural boobs now. So finding a cyst that was quite big in it, I was like, oh, I felt like it mustn't have been there long because I would have noticed it.
Can I ask you about that? So were you checking them, or were you just in the shower, or did you see something? What was the sitch?
PG version is I found it by accident. Grab my boob in the throes of passion. What the hell was that? That is a way to kill a party, let me tell you, finding a lump. That will sour things for sure. But yeah, I grabbed my boob and there was a lump there.
Hard, soft?
Hard. Like a lump. It wasn't like a little like lump that people find, little nodule. Yeah. No, it was big. So I thought it was a cyst.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've recently gone for tests and things because I found lumps, and I think we need to, you always talk about the conversation that our boobs as women,
change all
they're
the time.
lumpy.
Yeah.
I naturally have very small boobs as well. And it's like, hang on, what is a lump and what is your breast at times?
I think everybody's different, and I don't like to kind of have conversations with people. I'm like, this is what cancer feels like, this is what it doesn't feel like. Because when I was going through waiting for my biopsy, I had a friend who was like, well, if it hurts, it's not cancer. Because mine was painful.
Okay, so you find in the throes of passion, or however
that is a vibe killer for sure. For sure.
You find out a hard lump.
Yeah, it was a significant lump.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, had a good feel of it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, that feels strange. But I was like, okay, well, I've only just noticed it. Let me wait for like my full cycle to see if it's
where you are in the month.
Yeah.
And because also our boobs change every month, every week, don't they, within our cycle?
Exactly. So, that's why I always, and like the recommendation is when you're self-checking, same time every month. So you know what's normal for your body.
Yeah.
Because then you can flag it instantly if it's not. But where I wasn't checking, I didn't know.
Yeah, you didn't know if it was normal where you were in your cycle, if that happened every month. So then what happened? So you waited a few weeks?
Yeah, so I found the lump, may have probably been about late May. And then I went to Glastonbury, took my best friend for her first Glastonbury. So that was the end of the following month.
Yeah.
And she might have been really boozy in the tent.
A great
and,
time.
Saying to her, like, I found this lump. And she felt it and she was like, mate, you need to get that checked. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was the first time in my head I was a bit like, oh, I do have to go and look. I thought it would have gone away by now, but actually it hasn't. Again, still not really stressing.
Yeah.
Because genuinely, in my mindset, you had to have an ample amount of breast tissue to get breast cancer. Also, you don't get breast cancer at 31 when you have no boobs.
And when you're feeling okay? Were you feeling all right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I went out a lot. I worked hard. Lived in a house with 4 other people, always noisy. I was tired.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that I would have put down to not just like living a full and happy life in London.
Yeah.
I was still exercising, working out, doing all that stuff. There was nothing that threw me, except that the lump then started to be a bit painy. And I was like, oh, that feels uncomfortable. And I think it's where it was growing quite quickly.
And it was painful like when you touched it or when you were just like moving?
No, it'd be like little lightning.
Okay. So the conversation with your friend and the fact it was still there and giving you a bit of pain, you booked an appointment with your GP, did you?
Well, because I'd only just moved house. Guess what I did? I moved house the day after I got back from Glastonbury. Don't do that, ever.
That is filth.
That is like masochistic behaviour. So yeah, moved house. But because I just moved house, I didn't have a GP. So I went to a walk-in centre at the local hospital and I waited to be seen there. And my boss at the time at work was so lovely, and I said to her, look, Holes, I found this lump. It's not gone away. I don't have a GP. Can I just please go and get it checked? I'm starting to panic. And she was like, yeah, go. Went to the urgent care centre and they felt it. I waited there for hours, felt it. He said, yeah, there's definitely a lump there. I'm not worried about it. You're young, have no medical history of breast cancer. So if it's still there in like a month, come back and we'll scan you. And I said, well, it's already been about a month. Reassured me there was nothing wrong. So I went off and like just enjoyed summer, had my friend's wedding. I was just cracking on. I really, really wasn't thinking about it again.
So you didn't have a biopsy or an ultrasound or anything at that point? He just had a feel? And it took, oh, yeah.
And when it gets better, because that's actually the hospital I was diagnosed in. So I could have been diagnosed there and then. And I'm very, very lucky that cancer hadn't spread. So this was the beginning of July.
Yep.
I went to my friend's wedding at the end of July. It would have been beginning of August. And my mum, Tina Mahon, shout out Tina, the legend. She was like, have you got that? What's happening with that lump? Is it still there? I said, yes. She went, you need to go back. You need to go back and you need to register with a doctor now.
Wise woman.
Yeah, and it's true. But I think because he made me feel like I had nothing to worry about, that I didn't. And I just was like, well, everything he said, why would it be cancer? Because why would it be? 90%, I'm not going to say a statistic because I don't know if it's the right one, but most people that go for a cancer referral and get tested will find it is not cancer, right? So in my head, I had nothing to worry about. But it was my mum. My mum said, go and get it checked. And I will always be so grateful to the women on reception at my GP surgery because I went in there, filled out a registration form, and they said, right, lovely, darling, we'll be in contact in a couple of weeks, get you through triage, see what you need. And I said, well, actually, the reason I'm here is because I have a lump. It's been there for like nearly 3 months. And I need to kind of get in, see a GP. And they said, stay there. And they registered me on the spot. And then within a week, I was in seeing the GP.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then this takes us to like mid-August.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
So then I saw the GP.
Yep.
She was amazing, felt it. She said, I'm not worried about it at all. She went, but I am going to refer you to the breast.
Yeah, because there and then, obviously the GP surgery, for those who obviously don't know, you can't get an ultrasound. And GPs aren't breast experts.
No.
They have a feel, etc. But you need to then be referred.
Yeah, exactly, of course. And that's the whole thing. I think we'll get onto this afterwards, but that's why I talk so much about cancer, because I just feel like you should never walk away with a question mark. You should know for certain whether something is or isn't something to worry about. And as soon as the ultrasound happened, the room changed.
Really?
And it was really scary. And I was on my own. I wasn't expecting it.
So they were doing the ultrasound and you were in the clinic. They had the gel and the little machine on
you. They did a mammogram, but I've got small boobs, so you can't see the whole breast. So my cancer didn't show up in a mammogram.
And a mammogram is generally for people over 40, and it's because the breast tissue is different when you're older, and it works better when you're older, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So good thing they did both.
Yeah.
So they did the ultrasound, they saw it, and they said, look, we just want to check this and we just want to biopsy it.
Okay.
I had the word biopsy at this point. I mean, now I'm covered in tattoos. Needles aren't a thing for me, really. As long as I don't look at it going into my veins, I'm fine. But then I was terrified. Like, that was like, what do you mean? Rang my mum in tears. Was terrified. Like, I was like, what do you mean, a biopsy? And it's
scary.
Yeah. And also, like, the actual procedure is scary. No one wants to go through that. So I had the biopsy. And then a week later, I was back and it was cancer. But the thing that I always talk about is when I left after having that biopsy, I rang my boss, who was amazing. I said, they've given me a biopsy. I don't want to come back to work. I'm a bit shaken up. Fine. It was a beautiful sunny day. And my friend Sean came to meet me. He was one of my really close friends. We'd been traveling together and stuff over the years. And I said to him, I said, I'm a bit worried because when I was speaking to the consultant, she had said, when you come back, bring someone with you. If it's cancer, we'll start discussing all these things. And I went, but what if it's not? So in a roundabout way, she was trying to tell me that she knows what she's looking at. She knew it was cancer, but she couldn't say until they'd done the biopsy. Because I'd said to her, well, what if it's not? And she just looked at me, she went, have you had a trauma to the breast? I said, no. And she said, bring someone with you. And then, we'll go from there. So I knew, in my heart, I was like, I think this could be it. But everyone around me convinced me that it wasn't. Which is fair, because you're going to say that to your people that you love. Like, oh, of course, there's nothing to worry about. No. But I just knew there was something in that moment where I left that I didn't want to go back to work, that I needed to go lay out in the sun in the park with my friend Sean and sing Phil Collins and eat Calippos. Do you know what I mean? It was really terrifying. But yeah, a week later, I went in and it was cancer. And I was, luckily, my brother and my mum came with me. Not luckily, actually. I always hate that my little brother was there for that. But he's not a baby. He's now 35, 36-year-old man. But it's just surreal. I look back now and I'm like, that was me?
Yeah. Can I just pause on that for a second? Just because for those who maybe don't know what actually a biopsy is, it's basically they put a needle into where the lump is, don't they? And they take out a bit of the material and they send it away for a test. But having to wait a week for those results. What was that week like? When you probably knew, as you say, in your heart, you were like, oh, crap, I think this is cancer.
Yeah, it's. I always say to people now, the advice I give is, it's nothing until it's something.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be worried about your results, but you can't overthink it.
Yeah.
Because it's actually nothing until you know any different.
Yeah.
You're in exactly the same position that you were. So I think what you can do is, my sister has this phrase where she says, you're borrowing trouble. So like when you worry about something too much.
Something in the future when it hasn't even happened yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very natural to be nervous. And I was, but I think I had reason to be because of the way I was dealt with. And I don't think it's a bad thing to be dealt with like that. In hindsight, I would have loved to have had someone with me at that examination and consultancy, so that there would have been two of us to kind of go, that was off, or like to hold my hand and have the biopsy and stuff like that. For me, the weirdest part was when getting diagnosed and then waiting to start treatment.
What was that wait and diagnosis like?
I mean, I got diagnosed on the 31st of August and I started chemo on the 31st of October. So it was a big wait, but it's because I was being referred to a different hospital and then I had my eggs frozen.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you're 31 at this point. Yeah. You've just been told you've got breast cancer. There's no history of cancer in your family, because they always ask you that.
There's a lot of cancer in my family, but not breast. So it's not like it's a genetic. It's definitely will be genetics.
Yeah.
There's so much research now about how your like genome and like how your family's genetics can impact a cancer diagnosis. Some people have bad hearts. Some people have bad heads. Some people got bad cells. I think my family's definitely one of those. But in terms of like direct link, there wasn't.
Yeah.
There was none.
And being 31, you're saying about having your eggs frozen because you wanted to potentially have children at some point, but cancer treatment can really impact that. So did they advise you to freeze your eggs, or was that something that you said?
No, they told me. None of this had even crossed my mind. Again, this is why I like to talk about the things like this, so that when people are diagnosed or people's loved ones are diagnosed, they can go, you need to make sure you can get your eggs frozen, or you need to check about your fertility. Because going back 10 years ago, I was very lucky that was raised, but there's so many people in my cohort and like peer group at my age that didn't get offered that.
Really?
Whether that be because of the stage of their cancer, or whether that be because it just wasn't the norm. Because I always kind of describe going through cancer treatment as being a little bit like on a conveyor belt. So like in a factory. So like your body is that product, and it's the medical team's job to fix and twist and do whatever they need to do to make sure that you're working when you get off the other end and you can go on. But it's very, very, very difficult because there's a whole life around that, and no one's really, while they're busy fixing your body, who's helping you with your mind, your lifestyle, everything. So I had no idea that was even a thing, because it was funny how it was phrased. She told me I had cancer, and then out of nowhere went, do you want kids? And in my head I was like, what are you talking about? This is personal. You've just told me I've got cancer, and now you're asking me if I want kids. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. And she said, well, because we're going to have to freeze your eggs. I mean, what do you mean? So in my head, I'm like, I'm now having to make a decision to do this big infertility treatment that I don't even know if I want kids. And it was actually my mum who talked me into it.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, no, just get me a treatment immediately.
But just in case, right? It was, in
that moment, I could only see tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas my mum was like, they've said they think they can get rid of it. They're throwing the book at you. They've offered to freeze your eggs. It means they think you're going to have a life after this. So for future, Lauren, if you don't use them, you don't use them. It's 10 years on. I've still got a little blazing squad, 9 eggs on ice, waiting to be fertilized. But they're there, and it has in some way enabled me to not stress out about the biological clock. But in another way, it means I haven't really ever given it much thought. So it's like strange.
Can I ask, what type of cancer were you diagnosed with?
Oh, yeah. So it was breast cancer.
Yeah.
I think it was stage 2B, maybe 3 because of the size.
So it was quite big, was it?
It was like 2.8 centimeters in this little boobie.
And is anything maybe over 1 centimeter considered?
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs,
Yeah.
but also my cancer was hormone driven. So there's a growth protein in it called HER2, and it was positive for that. It was also estrogen positive, which makes it a really like aggressive growing cancer.
Okay.
Because it's been like just fueled constantly by these things. So yeah, they kind of had to throw the book at it. But most people who have chemo will be affected in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's fast dividing cells, so it kills the good and the bad.
It can bring on the menopause and all sorts, can't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing about that so honestly. And I know, it's a huge part of you and what you do now.
Yeah.
Did it feel entirely consuming?
Yeah.
At that point? Yeah.
Yeah, it did, up until probably about 3 years ago.
Really?
Because it became my work.
Yes.
And I'm good at it and I love doing it. But also it's like, then it becomes part of your identity. And I now find that I'm in a point in my life at 40 where I'm trying to like figure out who I am now. Because at 31, that kind of decision got made for me in a way. And it's impacted all of the last 10 years, decisions I've made, things that I do, relationships, everything. And the way I feel about my body. So I'm in a place now where I can start to figure that out. But at the time, yeah, you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
So it's like your full-time job is to get through every treatment, to get to the next one, to hope for clear scans or things shrinking. So yeah, it is. It is like a full-time job.
Yeah.
The way you become so fluent in the jargon, in medicine talk, in knowing your cycles, what you need for certain points of your recovery from chemo, or, just the when you hear cancer patients talk to each other, it's like another language.
Yeah.
It's brilliant though, because you feel like it's like your own little club. You don't want to be part of it. Don't get me wrong. But if you are going to be part of it, you meet some really cool people. It's fine.
Well, thank you for talking about the diagnosis element, because I think the more, obviously, and you do a lot of this now, but the more we talk about it and we understand what a diagnosis or what a lump might look like, the more likely we are to find it. I want to dive more into your work with Girl vs. Cancer and the podcast, but we're going to take a tiny little break. You started the brilliant Girl vs. Cancer. Did you start this straight away?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Talk to me. So you get diagnosed end of August. When does Girl vs. Cancer start? And for those who don't know, like, what was it then?
So Girl vs. Cancer, I always say, was an online Instagram community. So it started off as a hashtag. I worked in social media at the time, did a bit of blogging on the side, loved creating content and just like sharing thoughts and feelings with the community. So when I got sick, all my skill set just came into the like envision and be like, oh, actually, like, this can all come together for a good purpose. So I knew that people were going to see that I was ill, because I knew I'd be going through chemo, likely to lose my hair. I didn't want people perceiving me in a certain way. I wanted to take control of that. Because I worked in digital marketing and branding, automatically I was like, well, that ties nicely in. I didn't want to make it my account, but I could make it a hashtag. So when I post about the cancer content, it'll be under the hashtag Girl vs. Cancer. So that's what I did. I started posting about what was going on with me, told the world what was happening, took them through all the journey with me.
Can I ask you a question on that? Did it ever cross your mind not to share about it? Like to keep it private? Or was it a way?
I did think about it, but then the thing is, in my head, it was worse for people to make up a story in their head about how I was and what I was going through than me telling it. But also, I could not find women that were young like me, that had survived. How did they get through the treatment? What were they using to get through side effects? What does this look like? I have no idea what to expect. So in a way, it was like, well, I have the opportunity to lift that curtain. Why wouldn't I do it?
So it was a combination
Vulnerable.
of you taking kind of control of the narrative, but also a bit of a call to arms, like to find other women and to help other women, some sort of solidarity.
I just was like, I needed someone, a version of me that had already done this, or was going through it, to light the way or show me how, or be
Give
the
you hope.
shoulder. Yeah, and like be the friend down the pub who's going to go, you know, if you go through a breakup, you go, right, delete his number, do this. I needed someone to be like, right, take your meds on time and do this. And have you seen this lovely lotion? This will help if you get itchy. Like, that's what I needed, and I couldn't find it because it was all aimed at more advanced life stage.
So you created it?
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, that's what I feel like. It's at the time you just want to do whatever you can. You can't see the bigger picture. There was no strategy.
Yeah.
It was just the same as going through the cancer diagnosis. Like if the treatment hadn't worked and it ended up being bad news, that would have been shared as well. So it just made me feel like this wasn't all for nothing. And it allowed me a space to connect with other people who were going through what I was going through, which ended up being way more than I even could have imagined because no one talked about it. And then also just kind of something to focus on.
So it started as a hashtag,
Yes.
and then you built a website? Is that
I built
what came
a website,
next?
Yeah. So I already had my blog
Yeah.
that I just launched in that summer. I relaunched it. It's called Girl Stole London.
Are you still stealing London?
No, I've given it back. I've given it back.
Returned
I've moved to the seaside. It's fine. It's all yours now, guys. But I had that blog anyway. So I just kind of, it originally started as like a subcategory on the website, GIRLvsCANCER. And then in the end, I ended up just changing the site to GIRLvsCANCER and using it for that because that's what my life was. I wasn't up for sharing, oh, this is what I'm going out and eating this week. Everything tasted like paper or it burned my mouth. So it wasn't the same vibe. Whereas I could recommend things to people or talk about real big feelings I was having in a safe space. So yeah, it became an online community hub.
And were you able to work at this time?
So I had every intention of carrying on work, but my treatment plan was like at least 6 months of chemo, surgery, radiotherapy. So obviously I had to see how I felt during that time. But I wanted to work. I wanted to retain a sense of self, but I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any insurances in place. You know, when I was joining the business, I wasn't asking for certain packages because that wasn't my priority. My thing was like getting paid more money. Brilliant. I can go on holiday this year. I go Glastonbury. So it's
not on your radar at that point.
It really was not. So it was really shocking to me when I was trying to figure out how this would work monetarily with the business, when I was told, well, you've got 4 weeks paid sick and then after that it's statutory sick. And I was like, oh, okay. And they said, but we're going to extend it to 6 weeks for you. That's still 6 weeks out of 6 months. And I was like, okay. And it was only when I started looking into statutory sick pay, it's £50 a week. So, or 52 it was then. So I had gone from earning over £2,000 a month to earning £200 a month at one point eventually. And my rent was like £800-900. This is 10 years ago. So like, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but now I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
It was a very short, sharp shock. And I felt terrified. So that's when I had these ideas to make like t-shirts, tees, because obviously like really good way to get people to talk about things is fashion and it's a good way to get pick up and press. So I created this idea for tees, but it actually ended up becoming a lifeline for me because it meant I could sell them, give 10% to charity, the charities that were supporting me, but then the rest of the money I could use to put towards my rent. So I was having to fundraise to survive. And at 31, like no one should have to lose their home or not be able to put food on the table or be in financial crisis because of a cancer diagnosis. I didn't realize at all how unsupported we are without these things in place like insurance, like make sure you've got savings, like having really good benefits and packages when you sign up to jobs. It wasn't something that I was fluent in. I knew nothing about.
As if the cancer diagnosis and health wasn't stressful enough, then the fact that you haven't got any money to be able to carry on living where you're living, the compounded stress of that must have been huge.
It's horrific. And I just think I'm very lucky that I was diagnosed, if you can call things lucky, diagnosed in London with a family that lives in London, that even if I couldn't keep my place in that home, which I should have been able to do, really and truly, I still have parents that I can move back with if I needed to. When I was doing my treatment, I was at home for 10 days and then I'd come back for the last week to East London and be with my friends and live some kind of normality. But also as the cookie crumbled, after like the third chemo, I couldn't go into work. But it was winter season, people have coughs, colds, you can't be around that kind of thing. So yeah, it really limited my options and I just felt very worried about money for the first time in my life. I wasn't earning a wage. And yeah, it was a really scary place to be in. I do not recommend.
Looking back now, or even, you know, people who are in their mid to late 20s, early 30s, who don't think they need any sort of like insurance or like safety net, as it were, having gone through what you've gone through and speaking to the amount of women and helping so many people that you help, what would you say about that?
I would, any young woman, anyone who's young, just getting into their first jobs, go and get insurance. It doesn't have to be the sky high premium. It doesn't have to be all bells and whistles. Just go and get something basic. Start that process. Because if you do it younger, it's cheaper, right? And we're not thinking twice about going down the pub and ordering however many pints, especially in London now, mate. That's like 100 quid. You're not paying that even for a month's worth of cover. I think especially as well, like I'm a working class girl. I come from a family where it was like you get paid, you've got your outgoings, you have your extras for a bit of fun. There was never, ever any conversation around savings, pensions, investments, insurance. Those weren't conversations we were having at home. It wasn't that my dad and that didn't have them in place. But growing up, my dad was the breadwinner. My mum raised us and then mum went to work. But those weren't really not like the conversations that we were having at home. So now it's like, for me, I've got a niece, I've got a nephew, they're 6 and they're 8, I've got godchildren. I'm very like upfront with them. I'm like, when you start working, you put money aside and you make sure that even if you can't necessarily afford to put a bit away, you make sure that the packages that you're going into and places that you work have stuff available to you that can support you. Because I never knew. And look at the situation I ended up in.
I think it's such an important message, Lauren, because I was similar. And my parents both just working class hairdresser, farmer, never had any private pensions, didn't know what any of I just didn't. If you don't know, you don't know.
And if you don't hear it at home, if it's not the normal language of money that people who don't have wealth very rarely talk about, it's
because I think there's this conception that if you don't have any disposable income to spare, then why? Then obviously you're not going to talk about something that you can't really afford, if that makes sense.
Or it's not seen as a priority.
Yes, exactly.
When actually it is. And the thing is, you may never need it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's ever going to be wasted money.
Yeah.
Because there will always be something
that
comes up in life, whether it's you, a partner, children.
Yeah.
It might not be like end of life. It might be an illness. It might be not being able to work for whatever reason. Especially as well if you're freelance, like there is no backup. And these are the things that I wish I had known when I started working. Not even at 30 before I got sick, like when I started to earn a proper wage, when I started to go into the world of work as an adult. It's not just an Oyster card you've got to put money on. Do you know what I mean? Like it's about investing in yourself as a person. And by doing so, you're not like jinxing yourself.
No.
You're not.
And hopefully you never have to use it,
Exactly.
granted. But you don't necessarily notice it coming out that much if it's
Mate,
not huge
a £5
amounts.
a month.
I know, and that's
Even
what you
a
can
tenner.
get it. Yeah.
You can't even get streaming services that cheap these days.
Exactly. And so I just think the awareness around it about who can get it, who should get it. Yeah.
Start as young as you can. Just get into the habit of investing in yourself that way and securing a future for yourself that way. Because it can never be a bad thing. If you don't use it, you don't use it.
Yeah.
But if you do need it and you don't have it, that's a worse situation to be in.
That's a really beautiful way of putting it, though. Securing your future.
Yeah.
Securing.
I had this really weird moment that I'd never thought like this. And then we went into a pandemic and you got time to think, right? And at this point, I've been working for myself for 2 years freelance. I'd left the old job. So no shock to no one after how things went down. This is a really scary time. I love our NHS and I back our NHS. But as someone who's been through such bad health situation, I'm going to look into health insurance. I'm going to look into insurances so that the money that I'm earning that I'm not spending because it's a pandemic, I can start to put aside, right? And it was the most heartbreaking conversation because it was so close to diagnosis still that the options that were available to me, some were, some weren't. I couldn't maybe get the all bells and whistles. Some were quite high premiums. And I remember having this conversation and bursting into tears. And luckily, like the company I was talking to, super lovely. I don't think this is conflict of interest. I'm not going to say the names, but they were so nice to me. But I was so emotional because I was a 35-year-old woman talking to people about wanting to have life insurance and critical illness cover, and knowing that already eligible for certain things.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone else to have to experience that. I'd like someone to be able to go, the worst has happened, but at least I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. It's all about getting it, hopefully, when you have got kind of nothing wrong.
No, it's when you should be getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't wait to start brushing your teeth when you start getting fillings or like cavities. Do you know what I mean? You do it. It's to prevent it.
Yeah.
And I think even though this isn't prevention, it is preventing you from being in certain situations. You can't prevent life in, but you can prevent the way it could turn out for you.
Oh, preach.
Yeah, mic drop, boom, done.
Indeed.
Come on, Rain, finished.
Can I? I want to talk to you about the podcast.
Yeah.
You, Me and the Big C.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about? Because for those who don't know, very successful BBC Sounds podcast, 5 Live, 2018 it started, didn't it?
Yeah.
Rachel Bland, journalist, read the news, didn't she, on 5 Live?
Yeah, she was on like Richard Bacon's show and stuff like that, yeah.
How did you get involved? What happened?
When I was building out the website and the blog for GIRLvsCANCER, as things tend to do online, you talk about something openly, you start to find your own little community. Rachel was one of those people. Rachel also had breast cancer, and she'd recently had a recurrence where it come back. And I had a space on the website because it's Girl versus Cancer, but it's not all about me. It's about us as a collective. So I was getting people to share stories about different subject matter that mattered to them so that people might be able to take it. Every cancer experience is different. I wasn't a parent. I haven't had a recurrence. So Rachel wrote a piece for me and it was on the website. So we'd had some dealings. And
that came from nowhere. She had just found your Instagram/website and she had like written into you.
I'd asked her.
Oh, okay.
I'd asked her,
you found out about her story and then you reached out to her and then she wrote a piece. Got it.
Yeah, and also like I was doing shout outs on my socials. I was saying, look, I'd love to build this area out. So I was getting a lot of people. So I can't remember if I had outreach to her or she'd outreach to me, but we were aware of each other anyway. And to be honest with you, like, Rachel wasn't someone that I would have met in real life. Like, she lived up north. She was a parent. Like, that whole mum side of the world was just not open to me. I didn't think we had much in common except for the cancer diagnosis. And then, so one day I just got a DM or an email, I can't remember what it was, and it was Rach, and she had said, look, I've had this idea to do a podcast about cancer, but like cool like girls with cancer. And I was like, oh, thanks very much for me, cool girl. But at this time, it was 2017. I'd finished my treatment, only just started going back into work when this was all happening. And I thought, do you know what? This is a great idea. This is a really good idea because these conversations aren't happening out in the open. Also, I didn't really know much about podcasting. It was only really starting then. But I just thought BBC, behind a mic, that sounds fun.
Yeah, get me in there.
Yeah. So it was really funny because we'd message, and then the following week Rachel asked for my number and said, oh, can I call you, because we're going to go in and pitch it to, at the time it was Jono, the commissioner, with my producer Mike. Got on the phone to her. I was at my desk, she rang me, went off. She's like, right, this is what we're thinking, blah blah, have you got anything to add, said it. 10 minutes later I got a call, right, we're on, we're going to sort out for you guys to come up to Manchester.
What?
What? I was like, us? And she was like, yeah, you and Deborah James.
And
I don't know who
like,
Deborah was.
Yeah, who is this woman? So how did she get involved? What's going on there?
Because again, I think Rachel had seen Deb's stuff because she's a parent with cancer, a young woman going through cancer, and a stage 4 diagnosis at that. So I didn't even have a clue who Deb was. I started looking at her going, she's a bit mental, but seems quite nice.
So Deb had also shared on social media about her
we
cancer.
all got diagnosed in 2016, I believe.
Yeah.
We all got diagnosed around the same time.
Yeah.
So she'd been talking about her stuff under the Bowel Babe. So like she felt like it could be like the superhero that she didn't feel like she was. And also it was about changing the way people perceive bowel cancer.
Yeah.
She knew that, people would tune out as soon as you start talking poo. But if she could make it girly and sexy and fun, then people might engage with it in a way they do with breast cancer.
And she did just that. Because like bowel cancer, icky, like people initially when they're like, they feel awkward.
As I've said this 1,000 times, I said it on the pod, whoever you fancy most in the world, they go and take a dump. They go and sit on their phone in the toilet just like any one of us. All do it. Paul Mescal does it. Love him, my man. Do you know what I mean? Like, they all do it.
Yes.
Everyone does it. There is no one that's immune. So
anyone could get bowel cancer as well. Yeah,
exactly.
So
people always thought of it as like beer bellies, older men who drink a lot of alcohol, eat a lot of red meat, don't exercise. And Deborah was a vegetarian who ran marathons. Young woman. It wasn't what you think it is. And I think we were all trying to do the same thing, which was like lift the curtain on what cancer actually looks like in this day and age, and that it isn't just the elderly, because we were all guilty of it. We all thought it wouldn't be us. We're young, no history.
Yeah. And all in your 30s, all
in our
diagnosed with
30s.
cancer.
Yeah, all diagnosed with cancer.
So Rachel brought the three of you together. She got it commissioned by the BBC, essentially.
Captain Rach. She was pod captain.
And it started in early 2018, didn't it? The
first time I met Deborah was on the platform at Euston, getting the train to Manchester.
Was it? So you all recorded in Manchester, up in Salford?
Up in Salford.
Yeah.
We got on the train together, 2 hours with this wonderful, crazy woman in a fedora hat. And
in a fedora
mate, she loved a hat, this woman. And some like clippy cloppy heels. And then we got there and met Rachel for the first time. And I just remember her being like, don't worry, just talk, be yourselves. Obviously, I had to learn to be a bit more BBC and not swear as much. My producer, Mike, didn't realise, because none of us had ever said it, that was the first time we'd all met. And he couldn't get over it. It was like halfway through the pod when Rachel said, like, this is the first time we've all been together. And Mike was in all of our ears going, what do you mean? Because the chemistry was there. It was really special. I have got such fond memories of recording that pod.
Did it feel like magic as soon as you three got behind the mics together for the first?
It felt like home. Just women that got me.
Yeah.
And the fact that we could laugh and joke about our situations and make light of situations that you couldn't really do with other people who hadn't been through cancer, or like it doesn't hit the same as like messaging someone over DM or text. Like they might not get the way in which you mean something, but to have like us girls just talking about life in general and then talking about cancer as if we're talking about what we're having for dinner was really refreshing. And I think that's what lent the magic. It made people feel like a sense of belonging, a sense of safety, a place where they felt heard. And I also feel like what we didn't factor in was how much other people who haven't gone through their own cancer diagnosis but have been around it, whether that's medical professionals, parents, partners, children, they were able to listen in and hear a perspective of a cancer patient they'd never heard before. So they were able to treat their patients better, their partners better, their loved ones better. And that's something I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Because, cancer's going nowhere, unfortunately, still 1 in 2 of us. So I love that we've just done a legacy podcast and we talked about it.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was the first time I've been in that studio feeling excited and happy. It reminded me of the beginning days when we'd all go in together, us lot.
You sounded so alive on it. Yeah, for those who don't know, maybe hadn't listened to the podcast, it's such amazing evergreen content. What I mean by that is that you could go listen to it right now and so much of it be relevant, and you tackle so many different topics of cancer from different perspectives and bring in different voices as well. And it's now in a legacy phase, isn't it? And you recently recorded a beautiful episode.
Yeah, we did. We were looking at all it's achieved, and one of the stats that came out of it is since our last podcast recording, which I think was early 2023, where we decided to step back after Deborah died, we're giving it a bit of space, and we're like, right, we're hanging up our headphones. We've had over 400,000 downloads. People are listening, and that's without any promotion. That's without any newness.
That's 400,000 new downloads since the podcast ended, essentially.
And it's in the millions at this point. People have listened. And we've had messages from people who have been given their treatment plan from the hospital, and on it says, "Listen to you in the big C." So I feel like genuinely it's only now that I'm starting to look at it and go, "Whoa, my God." Because when we were in it, were in it. And like, you got to think through the whole way of recording, if it wasn't me going through something, we were Rachel, and then Rachel died, and then Deb died. Like, it's been a constant flow of that. And this is the first time I've actually been able to step back and come back to it and go, oh my God, this is way bigger than we could have imagined. How amazing.
Feel proud?
Very proud. I don't know if I'll ever do a body of work that I could be prouder of.
I mean, it's saved lives. It's saved countless lives, hasn't it?
I hope so, yeah. We think so.
It
for
has.
what we know. But it's just, what I love about it is we wanted to do good. We wanted to get the message out, that's what cancer looks like. We did want people checking their poo and checking their boobs and like saving lives if possible, but we never realised the scale at which it would do that. I'm so incredibly proud of it. And like, let's see, maybe it isn't as over as we think it is.
Well, you should be so
And that's not
proud,
because I've got
Lauren.
cancer, by the way.
Oh, God.
Everybody calm down.
I think it's important just to touch a little bit more on Rachel and Debs.
Yes.
Now, Rachel passed away in 2018.
She did, September, yeah.
How was that?
Shock. Like, well, we knew she was getting sick, but for me, it was the first time I'd seen a decline of someone firsthand and so quickly. I'd seen it with my grandparents, never seen it with a young woman. It was quite shocking, but also it was really challenging in a beautiful way. I had to really get to terms with being present with someone who was clearly dying and trying to find comfortability in that and make her feel comfortable and let her process her own death the way that she wants to without trying to shut it down or do whatever makes me comfortable. It was a big learning process for me. And as much as it's heartbreaking, I will always be grateful to the openness and the way that she managed and told us to be, because it helped us to process it.
She sounds like an incredible woman.
Yeah, she is, man. She's
and you then went on to work with her husband on the podcast.
Yes.
How was life for him?
I mean, it's tough for him. Like, you know, I don't know how he coped. You've got to think when you're going through a cancer diagnosis. I don't know, because I've never been a partner to someone who's gone through it. But the relationship changes. You go from being someone's partner to someone's carer. Rachel hated all of that. I know he really struggled. We did actually talk a lot on the pod towards the end of Rachel's life about like the fact that she didn't have to worry about Steve and Freddie, her son, in terms of the house and things like that, because she got her life insurance payout. So she knew that the house was covered, things were covered. She actually had some money left. She went and got her beautiful hair extensions done for her book cover. She bought a pair of Jimmy Choos. She'd always wanted a pair. She went, I don't care if I only wear them twice. But I remember having those conversations with her then and just being like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. That's why when we went into the pandemic, I did start having those conversations.
I see.
Because I'd never heard it talked about. I'd never heard about anyone having a life insurance payout, because I'd never known anyone who had died and had that.
Yeah, and sometimes you hear about insurances or life insurance, but you actually never hear that people actually get the money from it.
Yeah.
You know, like it actually works.
And the security she felt for them. She'd have to worry about them in that respect. She'd have to worry about paying for a funeral.
Yeah.
It was all sorted. So, yeah, for Steve, in that respect, like the logistics, I guess, I think were easier. But it was the emotional side. But in a way that was good, because it meant he could just deal with that emotional side.
Yeah. And then Debs.
Yes.
Bow Babe.
Yes.
Became extremely influential towards the end of her life and setting up the Bow Babe Fund, which raised how many million?
She's on 19 million now.
19 million pounds.
19 million pounds. And it's all funding life-saving research, trials, everything. Stuff that Deb would really, really, really want to do.
And she passed away in 2022.
We lost her in 2022. Yeah, I think it was June.
Lauren, how does it feel being the only one left?
Weird. In what job do you go into, other than the army, I imagine, where you think you might be the only colleague coming out alive? It's surreal. And this just shows, like, there was nothing to set a precedent when we started doing the pod. We didn't think about that. We just wanted to do what we did. We didn't think about the long-term implications or our friendships, the fact we'd built something together, people be so invested in us. We were just doing the best we could. In fact, Deb and I had said before Rachel died, we're not doing this without her. And it's like her spidey senses went off, because the next day she went and spoke to Jono and then text Deb and I and said, you're carrying the pod on. I spoke to Jono. So you can't say no to a dying woman, unfortunately. And she knew that. But it is weird, because there is just a big part of that podcast life cycle that I've got. Like, Steve's recorded more episodes than Rachel ever did, which is crazy. And also we have Mike and we have Al, who are our producers the whole time. But we were the ones who'd experienced the cancer, and we were the bond that kind of made it start off and gave it the magic, I guess. So it is hard that I can't turn around and like fact check or memory check or anything with them. But whenever I do anything with You Mean the Big C, it is for them first and foremost, if that makes sense. Like, I'm proud of it, but I want to do them proud every time.
It's incredible. It really is.
Thank you.
And it's so great to see that you're still here, still doing this work, because I imagine that was a bit of a question mark at times. What is the future and what is the current looking like for Lauren?
Well, I'm 10 years post-diagnosis in August, which is insane, because honestly, when I think back to that girl who had gone to the pub garden straight after finding out the news just to kind of sit there and be like, what has happened? I couldn't imagine what 10 years looked like for me. I didn't even want to dare to dream. I feel like I've got a new lease of life. I feel like I've turned 40. I get to reclaim the last 10 years, basically. That my 30s, when I should have been doing all the certain things that I now get to do. I get to establish myself. What do I want? But with all the wisdom of learning what I've learned the last 10 years, through grief, through my own illnesses, just through life in the state of the world. So I'm really hopeful that I get to continue to do the advocacy work in a way that feels impactful but doesn't take so much from me, because I feel like I have a lived experience, but things have moved on so much that I can actually use my platform and my voice to platform other people and share information that people need to hear now. We're getting closer and closer to curing some cancers. So I'm really excited to keep reporting about that and celebrate those wins.
Oh, Lauren, and I'm so excited to continue watching you do all this work.
Thanks, mate.
A huge thank you for coming on today and talking about all of this. You're helping so many people, and long may you do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Pretty Covered. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you've got a story you'd like to share, we would love to hear from you. Just check out the link in the show notes to get in touch. See you next time. Pretty Covered is a podcast brought to you by Polly, a trading style of Candid Insurance Services Limited, which is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. The content of this podcast is meant to be informational, and it should not be considered as financial advice. Terms and conditions may apply.